former Open Championship winner steps up to the first tee at Royal Troon. The crowd is watching, the cameras are rolling. He swings his driver and shoots a 92, the worst score by a past champion in modern times. He walks off the course in tears and never plays competitive golf again. This is the tragic story of Ian Baker-Finch. But how does someone go from winning the Open Championship to losing 32 straight cuts and quitting the game entirely? This is a story about fear, failure, and finding a way back from the darkest moments in sports. Ian Baker-Finch was born on October 24, 1960, in Nambour, Queensland, Australia. He turned professional in 1979 and began competing on the PGA Tour of Australasia. His early career showed real promise. In 1983, he won the New Zealand Open, which earned him entry into the Open Championship the following year. At the 1984 Open, something magical almost happened. Baker-Finch led after 3 rounds. He was on top of the leaderboard at one of golf's biggest tournaments. But then came Sunday. A final round 79 dropped him to 9th place. It was a pattern that would haunt him later. Still, finishing 9th at the Open as a young Australian was impressive. His career reached its peak in 1991. At Royal Birkdale, Baker-Finch played the golf of his life during the Open Championship. In the final round, he shot a remarkable 66. He hit every single fairway. He hit every single green. It was flawless golf under the biggest pressure. This victory placed him among the world's top golfers with a ranking in the top 10. He was now a major champion. For a brief moment, Ian Baker-Finch was one of the best golfers on the planet. He had everything: talent, success, a bright future. But then something went wrong, something that would destroy his career and change his life forever. Following his 1991 triumph, Baker-Finch's game began to fall apart. It wasn't his swing that broke down. It wasn't an injury, it was his mind. He developed what golfers call the yips. The yips are a psychological condition where a player suddenly loses coordination and control, especially under pressure. The strange thing about Baker-Finch's yips was how they worked. On the practice range, he could hit shots perfectly. Every ball went exactly where he wanted. But the moment he stepped onto a real golf course during a tournament, fear took over. He described experiencing pure terror, especially when he could see out-of-bounds stakes near the tee. His decline became painfully public. At the 1995 Open Championship at St. Andrews, he was paired with Arnold Palmer for Palmer's final Open. On the very first hole, Baker-Finch hooked his opening tee shot out of bounds. It was a moment that showed just how bad things had become. Between 1994 and 1997, Baker-Finch missed 32 consecutive cuts on the PGA Tour. Think about that for a moment. 32 tournaments in a row where he couldn't even make it to the weekend. In 1995 and 1996, he either missed the cut, withdrew after 1 round, or was disqualified in all 29 PGA Tour events he entered. His last top 10 finish was a tie for 10th at the 1994 Masters Tournament. The psychological battle was intense. Baker-Finch tried everything to fix his game. He consulted over 30 different people: coaches, psychologists, hypnotists, nutritionists, healers, gurus, swing doctors, and spiritualists. He tried hypnosis, self-hypnosis, and even telephone hypnosis. He had knee surgery and corrective eye surgery. Nothing worked. The golf community rallied around him. He received over 4,500 letters from fans offering advice and support. Amazingly, he answered almost every single one. This shows the depth of his desperation, but also his character. Even while struggling, he took time to respond to people who cared about him. While Ian was battling his inner demons on the golf course, millions of fans were still watching and searching for something to believe in. And if you're one of those fans who loves following every shot and every tournament, Fubo is your place to feel part of the action. With Fubo, you get access to live golf coverage, behind-the-scenes content, and all the drama that makes this sport so compelling. Whether it's major championships or regular tour events, Fubo brings you closer to the game you love. Check out FUBO today and never miss a moment of the action. The personal toll on Baker-Finch was enormous. His wife Jenny watched the emotional strain tear at her husband. His children began asking about his trophies, wondering why daddy wasn't winning anymore. Baker-Finch himself admitted, "I can't tell you how bad it feels to feel so badly about yourself." The psychological burden was crushing. Some people suggested that constantly changing his swing might have caused the problems. In pursuit of hitting the ball longer off the tee, he may have lost his natural feel for the game. Whatever the cause, the yips had taken complete control of his career. The end came at the 1997 Open Championship at Royal Troon. Baker-Finch shot that devastating 92 in the first round. He was emotionally destroyed, crying in the locker room before withdrawing from the tournament. It was the worst score by a past champion in modern times. More importantly, it effectively marked the end of his competitive career. But this is where Ian Baker-Finch's story becomes inspiring. Instead of disappearing from golf forever, he chose to rebuild his life within the sport he loved. After retiring from competitive play, he began a complete reinvention. In 2007, he joined CBS Sports as a golf analyst. But this wasn't his first experience in broadcasting. He had already worked for Australian television, ABC, ESPN, and TNT. His knowledge of the game and his honest perspective made him a natural fit for television. Baker-Finch also discovered a passion for golf course design. For the last 2 decades, he has been involved in creating new courses around the world. His favorite project became the desert course at Arabian Ranches in Dubai. This work allowed him to stay connected to golf while using his expertise in a completely different way. His leadership abilities were recognized with several important roles. He served as vice captain for the International President's Cup team in 1996 and as assistant captain in 2003, 2005, and 2007. Most notably, he acted as team leader for the Australian men's and women's golf teams at the 2016 Summer Olympics in Rio de Janeiro. The golf world recognized his contributions beyond playing. In 2000, he received the Australian Sports Medal for high achievement in sports. He became a life member of both the Australian PGA and Australian PGA Tour. These honors showed that his impact on golf extended far beyond his playing career. Throughout this entire journey, Baker-Finch maintained his dignity and humor. He never took his frustrations out on his family. He never blamed others for his struggles. He faced his demons with grace, even when the world was watching his every failure. Today, Ian Baker-Finch continues to stay engaged with the golf community. He maintains an active presence on social media, including Instagram, where he shares his ongoing love for the game. At 64 years old, he represents something powerful in sports. He shows us what resilience looks like. His story teaches us about the mental side of sports that we often ignore. In golf, confidence is everything. When that confidence disappears, even the most talented players can fall apart completely. But Baker-Finch also shows us that failure doesn't have to be the end of the story. The yips took away his ability to compete at the highest level, but they couldn't take away his knowledge, his passion, or his character. By transitioning into broadcasting and course design, he found new ways to contribute to golf. He proved that there can be life after sports, even after the most public failures. Ian Baker-Finch's career reminds us that sports can be cruel and unpredictable. One day you're on top of the world, winning major championships. The next day, you can't even make a cut. But his post-playing career shows us something even more important. It shows us that how you respond to failure matters more than the failure itself. In a game that demands perfect confidence, Ian Baker-Finch showed us what happens when confidence completely disappears. But more importantly, he showed us how to rebuild your life when the spotlight moves on and the crowd stops cheering. That might be the most impressive victory of his entire career.